It was a new relationship, and things were really, really good.
I could tell how happy she was.
My parents, they got concerned.
She had to choose between Joe or her family.
He was losing control.
That was when he finally went full psycho.
The scene itself just looked like a nightmare.
When I looked at him, it wasn't human. It was evil.
911, where's your emergency? Oh, God, you gotta get someone over here. Why would you do something like this?
Morgantown for me has always been like a place of community. Everyone is everyone's neighbor. And honestly, like if you don't know anybody there, it won't take 5 seconds before you already have a friend. Like it's that kind of community.
My mom and dad moved us here in 91, 92. It was a fabulous place to be raised. I love raising the kids there.
We were all living in one house. It was my mom and papa, and then my sister, my parents, and then my mom's siblings, and then Angie's kids were there as well.
Angie had a boyfriend in high school, and they actually went on to have 2 children. And then things did not work out between them, and they separated. Well, our parents were not exactly thrilled because both of us became young mothers. They basically were 100% supportive. Yep, we were very, very close.
Angie was the best sister. Me and her, you know, we're only 2 years apart. With her, she was my best friend.
She was free-spirited. A rainy day, she came into the room, you would never thought it was raining.
Oh, Angie was a firecracker. She always had the loudest laugh. You know, that was just infectious.
So me and Angie, we went and got food. And she said, I'm gonna tell you something, but you can't tell mom and dad. I was like, okay, lay it on me, what do we got? And she's like, I've met someone. I was like, well, okay, like, what's his name? Joey.
I remember her saying that he had come to her work and he was kind of like following her around the store, maybe found her attractive.
Angie was very into like the emo scene, dark clothes. She was like a rocker girl. Joey was very much that rocker type boy.
I remember it like when she brought him over. You know, mom was very on the defensive, very protective. And dad was like, well, let's play this out and see, you know, prove to me that you're a decent person, you know, prove to me that you're good enough to date my daughter kind of thing. I talked to Joey about that, and I went up to him and I was like, she really likes you, she really cares about you. Please be good to her. He said that he would.
I remember the first time that I met Joey. I was at my mom and papa's house and I was sitting in the living room, and that's when Angie walked in with Joey. I remember he leaned down to show me the tattoo he had on his shoulder, and it was a 666 tattoo. I remember his exact words to me were, I got this tattoo to show that even in good, there's always some evil.
Growing up in Morgantown, a small community, like, I mean, we were raised Christian, so when I seen him with all kinds of tattoos, like, I was like, okay, like, I don't know really how to feel about this.
Morgantown is very small, pretty tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody, basically.
I think with Joey, It was outside of the norm of what you would expect to see in really anybody in our community. It kind of drew Angie in the sense of like this was something different.
She seemed happy. It was a, new relationship, and things were really, really good. In 2012, Angie and Joey decided that they were going to get married.
I asked her, "Are you sure you want to do this? Does he make you happy?" And she said, "Yeah, he does."
We did a little reception at my uncle's house, and everything went really well. I think in the beginning, she seemed happy. He treated her older two kids okay, and I think that we were happy that she was happy.
We were absolutely delighted, and nice to see, her and all the kids, just happy.
Angie decided she wanted to be a certified nursing assistant. She loved it. She loved it so much.
Her and I worked together at a long-term care and rehab facility. Angie not only, worked her full-time hours, but she worked overtime every single week. A lot of times we would go in together and we would actually work like doubles, which are 16-hour shifts.
My sister, was working almost every day. But later on in the relationship, we started seeing he would not work. He wouldn't work.
I remember he got a job one time at, I believe it was a UPS shipping facility. He worked there for maybe a few months, and then he quit. And then his reason for quitting was that it was boring, and that was it.
What made me more mad than anything was that Joey would get mad when she took days off, when she didn't pick up a shift. He said it was lost money, money that she wasn't bringing in.
He liked being home. He liked, only doing those bare minimal things, and that Angie not only paid all the bills, but she got to where she was even giving him an allowance.
He told everybody that it was because he was a stay-at-home dad.
The house never got cleaned, and I remember that. Like, I saw that. The house was a wreck. The kids were in dirty clothes. Laundry wasn't done. I wish I would have said something then. But, Angie was doing everything that she could.
This man didn't even have, a driver's license. If he needed to go anywhere or needed to be dropped off, he had to wake Angie up to do it.
The more I got to hang out over there, I guess Joey felt like he could be more comfortable with, me around. Playing on, video games, he would get, violent, yell, throw the controller. And so for me, it was if he's acting like this, now, what's he doing behind closed doors? Angie, I was like, is he violent towards you? Does he yell at you? Does he hit you? All the time it was, no, he doesn't do anything like that. Joey wouldn't do that. Something in my gut was just I don't like him.
I started asking questions, and then Angie kind of lost contact with us.
My parents, they got concerned. Even her phone had been shut off, or she had gotten a new phone number, and so no one had a way of communicating with her.
Looking back, I guess that was the beginning of him just trying to gain control. Just trying to maybe distance Angie from mom and dad.
My whole family, if there's a reason for us to get together and celebrate something, we're gonna do it. We have 50 people that show up for Thanksgiving, for Christmas. And all of a sudden, she was not showing up to those things.
He just kind of, slowly did it over time. It was, oh, I don't want to go. If you go, you're saying that it's okay that they don't like me, that they treat me differently. Then she would be guilted into staying home. Joe definitely had put a lot of just strain on Angie with making her feel as if she had to choose between Joe or her family.
Me, mom, dad, everybody, was blocked. Like on Facebook, phone numbers, all that.
I remember mom crying about it. I remember dad crying about it.
I remember they were in the church parking lot, and we had pulled up to park, and we went to say hi. Joey, kind of shoved the kids in the car, shoved Angie, and they sped out of there. And I remember my mom and papa being just so upset because they just wanted to see their daughter and their grandkids. And I was worried for my Aunt Angie. I was worried for my cousins.
That is what prompted her mom to reach out to the Child Protective Services.
That's whenever, I guess you'd say, everything started hitting the fan.
The house was a wreck. It was disgusting. It was awful. Honestly, if social services had seen the house like that, those kids would have been removed right then and there, no questions asked.
It really did escalate because my parents were so immersed in their grandkids' lives that someone to just say, no, you're not seeing your grandkids anymore, was just heartbreaking for my parents. They were the type of grandparents that always wanted their grandkids around them. They were happiest when they had all their grandkids around them.
I think for mom and dad, they feared for the safety of the kids, and I think they knew that maybe they could do something to help those babies.
I think her mom thought, if I can get the kids out of there, then Angie will follow. But that didn't happen. Joe was able to really spin that and make it to where her mom was now the enemy.
Her kids had practically been raised in and around my parents' home. All of a sudden, they were not allowed to be around any of our family.
Mom and dad not seeing the grandbabies hurt mom and dad more than anything else. I remember Angie reaching out to dad. She came to the house and she started crying and she hugged dad. And she's like, I'm so sorry for everything that I had done. It was heartwarming, I guess, but it felt good because it was a bridge. It may not have been a sturdy bridge, but it was a start.
She finally started to come back around, and Joey would also come around with her. They would typically visit for about an hour at a time. It would be an hour on the dot, and Joey was, okay, it's time to go. We need to go home now. It was like she was a prisoner, and this was her hour of recess. In 2013, Angie and Joey had their first kid together. That was Violet, a little girl. And then they had their second child, Archer.
I think that she really thought that maybe that was gonna make him change his ways, that maybe things would turn around.
Shortly after she had Violet, I remember her telling me she couldn't be around any other men at all without Joe. He would, go through her phone, her text messages, her Facebook, and then that would turn into, a confrontation with him. He would push her, he would hold her up against the wall. When he got something in his head and wanted to fight about something, there was no getting away. She had tried to leave before, and he would tell her that if she didn't come back or if she didn't talk to him, that he would kill himself, that it would be her fault.
She did leave Joey for a very short amount of time. She moved in with Mama and Papa and all of us with her kids. That was when she started to explain, Joey is abusive. He refused to get a job, and that when she would get paid, he would take control of her paychecks and her bank accounts and basically just leave Angie with just enough money for the bills. We were all just kind of leave him. You cannot put yourself through this. You can't put your kids through this. You have to get out of this relationship. And she would be like, I'm going to. And then she ended up going back with him.
It seemed like it was just a back and forth. And it became almost exhausting, where it was like they'd be okay for a couple of months, there'd be a fight, she'd leave. She'd stay at Mom and Dad's for a few days, they'd make up. It was a cycle. It was a cycle.
Every time she would run away from him, she would run to my parents. And so there was always just that fear that, well, they're gonna be caught up in the middle of this.
Joey would send threats all the time, telling her, I'm going to put a bullet in your brain, your mom's brain, and your dad's brain if you ever leave me.
Joey came to the point where he was being more aggressive, being more violent, and Angie, she knew she couldn't do anything if she was dead. She couldn't protect her babies if she was gone.
So Angie had called me on Facebook. I messaged her as soon as I had woken up. And I was like, hey, what did you call for? And then she said protection. Joe had me pinned in the bathroom. It got so bad.
That was the straw that broke the camel's back. This was when she said, I've got to get out of here. I've got to do something to get out of this.
I knew that he was going to do something. I knew he was going to take matters in his own hands, and I was scared for him.
We are all at my cousin Renee's house, and we've got, a fire going, and we're roasting marshmallows. I see my mom answering her phone, and I said, what's going on? She said, don't say anything. Angie left Joey. And again, in my mind, I'm just like, oh, here we go again, for the umpteenth time.
I sat there and I remember saying, I was like, I won't believe it until the divorce papers are signed. I told them that. I was like, I won't hold my breath.
She was different this time, and she was done. And it was very evident that she was done.
I asked, I was like, well, how's he taking it? And she was like, oh, he won't stop blowing up my phone. I have to literally, put him on, do not disturb. And I'm like, really? Like that much? And I was like, so now that he realizes what he's done and what a piece of trash he is, now he wants to come running back. And Angie's just like, he's got nowhere to run to. She was like, I'm done with him. I loved hearing that. That was like a weight off my shoulder.
Those first couple of months, I was skeptical and I was thinking, okay, like, this probably isn't gonna last long, but I'll just enjoy it while it is, you know? Then, you know, it kind of got to that point where it had been the longest she was away, and I could tell how happy she was.
It's like 7 a.m. I'm sitting there in bed and I just, hear, a knock at my door. Then the door just opens and like she's standing there, hands on her hips. She goes, "New me. The world is my oyster." She's like, and I am finally taking a hold of my life.
We were thrilled. I mean, the whole family, it was basically like a party. I mean, we were so happy that she had left him.
Angie eventually met somebody new, and when I say that he was a complete 180 from Joey, I'm happy to say that he was. Like, she didn't have a bad word to say about him,
Wes, I mean, he loved her so much. He was just smitten with her. He treated her nice. He wasn't pushing her out the door, saying, it's time to go, it's time to leave. He just had a great relationship with all of us, Christmas was really great. We had everybody there. And it was probably one of the most stress-free Christmases that we had, especially with Angie. We knew she was done with Joey. We knew that this chapter was kind of closing, and we were just so happy for her and happy for her kids, and it was just really great. I think she finally opened her eyes to, what he's doing is wrong. It's always been wrong. I can get out of this situation and be okay. And I think that's when she finally decided to put in the divorce paperwork.
When she finally decided to divorce him, he wouldn't sign the papers. But I know for a fact that she did. She had a lawyer. She had everything. She even sat there, got a new phone number, got a new bank account, everything to separate from him.
His state of mind at that point when the divorce papers were coming was not good. He was angry. He was just constantly texting my sister, calling my sister, harassing my sister.
When she wasn't answering, he was calling her oldest daughter. He would call her mom, and then he was calling her dad. I mean, they weren't even able to use their phones because he was just constantly calling.
He was losing control at that point, I think, and that's what started to scare him.
Joey started to tell Angie that he was depressed and that he wanted to kill himself, and started saying some very disturbing things.
He threatened to drink bleach. He also made the comment that he was going to do it whenever he had the kids.
She told him she doesn't feel comfortable leaving the kids with him by himself because she was worried that he might actually kill himself in front of them, and she didn't want her kids to see that. And so she told him, I need you to get help. I'm gonna keep the kids away for a little bit. I think that was when he finally went full psycho.
He did threaten her life. He said, like, if I can't have you, no one can. He threatened mom and dad. One point he said, if there was a real life purge, he was like, I'd go to your mom and dad's house and kill them.
Her lawyer did suggest that she gets a emergency protective order against Joe. Her lawyer had decided it was best to have no contact, no telling Joe where the kids were, of what, they were, what they were doing. It was basically just gonna go cold turkey.
Myself, my parents, we all said, we're scared for you. We're scared for you, Angie. I'm scared of what he's gonna do. What if he shows up?
This is one of the texts that Joe had sent. Okay, I'll give it to the end of the day. Then, like I said 2 days ago, I tried to play nice, tried to leave it be, but now you are not replying and not answering, so I will be handling things accordingly. Reading this, I don't think that she was thinking that this meant that he was going to show up with a gun to her home, but now we know that that's exactly what he meant.
One, where's your emergency? Oh my God, my son! He just, oh God, you gotta get someone over here! Ma'am, what is your address? 911, where's your emergency? Oh my God, my son! He just, oh God, you gotta get someone over here! I just brought my son here to pick up his kids. Why would you do something like this? Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Ma'am, I can't understand you. Now, is it your son that was shot or her? Her.
My cousin is at home. Her husband is on fire and rescue, so he has a police scanner, and it came across that there was a male not breathing on Lonnie Snodgrass Road. They even gave the exact address.
I was in my office when I got a message from my cousin. I got told that an ambulance is heading to my house.
My dad had COPD, he was 79, he had health issues. I actually thought that it was something with my dad.
I was working at the hospital, and my brother Jonathan calls. He sounded troubled, and he was like, Tony, I think something's going on with mom and dad. Can you go check on them? Can you go and see them? And I was like, okay, yeah.
I reached my niece, and she said, Joey showed up with a gun. She said, Mama told me to grab the baby and go to the closet and lock the door. I'm calling my mom, and I'm calling my mom, and I'm calling my mom, and she doesn't answer.
I was at work that day when I got the call from the Kentucky State Police that we'd had a homicide. When I got to the home and made entry into the home, obviously it was unlike any crime scene I'd ever been to before.
The current time is 11:10 at the scene of a shooting. Be doing a walk through the residence.
As you breach the door threshold, Miss Carey was located prone on her back. She had substantial wounds evident of gunfire. A few further feet inside the residence was Miss McGranahan. To the area on the wall just above her head was a blood pattern impact that indicated that she had been shot at close range. Located on the couch of that residence were multiple casings. indicating that Joseph Carey had entered the threshold of that door prior to firing on Lupe McGranahan.
We're currently in the living room area, transitioning into the dining room, kitchen, magazine floor, multiple shell casings.
As you made your way in through the residence, there was various casings scattered across the living room and the dining room floor, kind of indicating the path that Joseph Carey would have taken as he had entered the residence.
This is the laundry room area. Additional individuals deceased.
Chuck, he actually was located inside the utility room.
It appears that the incident was contained to the interior of the residence and the front driveway.
You know, the scene itself just looked like a nightmare and a normal life of people that had been interrupted by, just a horrific event.
They already had a state trooper that was blocking the road. And so I pulled in.
We get there, I see some ambulances, and I keep thinking that like my mom or dad are gonna come out of this ambulance.
A first aid responder, she just looks at me and she's like, starts shaking her head and she's like, I'm so sorry. She told me that Joseph Carey showed up with a gun and shot and killed my sister, my mom, and my dad.
My brother comes to me and he says, they're all gone. And I said, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean they're all gone? And he said, Joey showed up and they're all gone. I didn't really know what to do at that point.
We remember seeing Joey get taken in a police car. I remember that. I'll never forget I locked eyes with him too. And when I looked at him, it wasn't human. It was evil.
The police already had him in custody, and he was transported from the scene to the state police post where they conducted a full interview.
We now needed to determine what would cause Joseph Carey to essentially execute all three individuals of his very close and immediate family.
I wasn't there. I didn't get to speak to you the first time. So if you could just walk me through your day, kind of let me know what happened and what your thought process was.
I went down to go speak to Angela, the mother of my kids, my wife. She came to the door with the door closed and was like, you need to leave. I said, can I just see the kids? That's all I want. And she said, you can talk to them through the door.
Mr. Carey, he had stated that he'd gone to the residence to get the children. I believe they were in the process of getting a divorce, and that he was trying to see the children.
And then that's when Lupe, Angela's mother, told Chuck to get the shotgun because I was staying too long. And that's when everything kind of went chaotic. She said, go get the shotgun. And I seen him passing through to the actual laundry room where I knew they kept the shotgun.
I think Mr. Carey wanted to convey to us that he had made those actions because he had been forced to make those actions.
But really the thing that you're saying escalated the situation today was Lupe telling Chuck to go get the shotgun.
Yes. I was trying to save myself and the kids. That's what went through my mind. Was just not letting him get a shotgun to where he could do something. I don't even know how in my mind my solution was better. I should have ran or something.
Has Chuck ever pulled a shotgun on you before?
No.
Carey stated multiple times that his primary concern with Chuck is that he was going to retrieve specifically a shotgun in the house that he knew or suspected to be located in the utility room of the residence. Chuck did enter that utility room. There was a shotgun present in that utility room. However, it wasn't loaded.
I mean, can't tell you any more than what I've already told you, really. I just said get the shotgun. I panicked. I did. My anxiety kills me most of the time, and when I heard that, my heart rate went, whoop. I followed him. I just boom, 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 right, you boom, 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 right, and then boom, boom, boom.
I'll interject this. I'm willing to play the buy your I panic story. I'll buy it. She had no firearm. She didn't accost you. She didn't assault you. She was in no way, shape, or form even arguably a threat.
Yeah.
She made no motion to a firearm.
No.
And you shot her.
Yes.
I think it's very important to remember that Angie McGranahan and Lupe McGranahan were found in very close proximity to one another, neither one of them having a gun on them, and that he had no right, Joseph Carey, to take their lives or to come in that home at all, even if he thought someone was going to get a gun.
So I've been listening to what you're telling me, okay? And some of the stuff's not adding up, okay?
Okay. I'll tell you right now, I'm guilty of what I did. I'm not gonna sit there and around and say I didn't hurt him or kill him.
Well, I mean, we know that. What we're trying to understand is why.
I'm telling you, it was panic, but I ain't gonna lie to you. There's probably more to it than that. But I honestly jumped when I heard the shotgun thing. That was just after the perceived threat.
Well, you was after one of three.
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying that was my main goal, was to stop him.
But what I'm getting at is Lupe was this way, he was this way.
I get you.
Your wife was here, he was this way.
I get you.
I think he was very much aware of the decisions that he was making while he was present. I think he was aggravated with the custody agreement, and possibly emotions were slightly elevated upon hearing that his kids would potentially be taken from him.
Yeah, after I shot Chuck, I walked back by Angie, and that's when I heard the Google noise. That was bothering me a lot. And I think, I can't tell you for sure, but I do think I did shoot again to get it to stop.
He was charged with 2 counts murder, 1 count murder, domestic violence, and I believe 3 counts of wanton endangerment. The Commonwealth of Kentucky is a death penalty state, and we knew most likely, just given the numbers of deceased individuals on scene, that would most definitely be something pursued by the Commonwealth's office.
When the suggestion of death penalty came up for Joey, I was in full support of it. The sooner he's dead, the better. I'm not gonna lie, the plea deal turned my stomach. After the evil you committed, you somehow still think that you're worthy of a plea. It was only after Blake explained that with a plea deal, it's done, it's over, there was no appealing. It was life in prison without the possibility of parole.
In looking at intent in a case like this, of what Mr. Carey's intent might have been, I believe he went to that residence to kill Angie McGranahan. I believe that Lupe and Chuck's deaths were just a result of them being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Joseph Carey shot Angie simply because she made it very clear that he was not going to have access to the children.
It was obvious that this was really just a cold-blooded, brutal murder of 3 people, 3 lives taken away from a family. That just really added another level to me of evil.
He was a monster. And they were 3 beautiful souls who were loved and just missed every single day. And every day is hard without them, even now.
They were definitely a safety net for me. You know, I felt like I was a tightrope walker, you know, and if I did fall, like, they were there.
My sister lived for her kids and ultimately died for her kids. And there's no greater sacrifice, you know.
I can't sum up one thing I miss about Angie. I miss my best friend. I miss my storyteller, my secret keeper, my confidant. Because she was that and more. And not a day goes by that I don't think about them.
My father, he was charming, but he was also terrifying to anyone that knew him.
You still tell me what to do.
This isn't just a bad person, this is an evil person.
There's shooting over here in our apartment.